All of us that have practiced body electronics and have encouraged and welcomed the healing crises, especially if it's ongoing, if it's years of commitment and years of building on the healing crises, we soon discover that even with the nutritional program alone, we begin to access those parts of ourselves that want to be released, whether that be in the physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. It does occur in that order. So we do begin the nutritional foundation and the other physical principles. That's the really the foundation of the healing crises within the body electronics protocols. So I have spoken a lot about the 5 nutritional musts within body electronics to encourage the body to get to a certain vitality that then the electrical components within the body can really be activated and really be present when we're going into an intensive and doing some point holding. So we divide the nutritional protocols into 2 main categories. One being, we call it maintenance level. So that would be the level of nutrition that we provide ourselves each day, not necessarily to really put us into a tremendous healing crisis, but just to maintain that high level of nutritional vitality. Then there's the saturation level of nutrition. This is what I want to speak more about today. This is the place where we're really encouraging our bodies to get to a much higher level of detoxification and a much higher level of fortification. And of course, what I mentioned earlier is that process of nutrient saturation. So the nutrient saturation comes mainly in 2 ways, not letting go of any of the other in those 5, but the top 2 are enzymes and minerals. So the enzymes can be broken down into many different types of enzymes. So here we're going to just generalize into like a superfood enzyme, an enzyme that has a really good mixture of enzymes, and that would be the amylase, the protease, and the lipase for sugar, carbs, fats, and proteins. And that's just like very, very basic digestive enzymes. So, we have lots of enzyme companies now. Of course, I have to mention the body electronics grassroots company called Enzymes International, who've been providing nutrition for body electronics students for decades. And they, especially in the States, I highly recommend people order from them. In Canada, more, I found a very comparable company called Avena, and it's in Alberta, Canada. So you can look that up. I'm not affiliated with them, with either of those companies in any way. So they both have like a superfood enzyme that is really like a general enzyme. So that would be taken with meals just prior to would be optimal. And then I recommend on top of that protease. And the reason for that is the regular enzymes will deal with what you're eating and hopefully deal with some of a long-standing or a longer-standing enzyme deficiency that has accumulated, which each and every person has, I can guarantee. I'm seeing people now, I'm seeing youth and children now in my practice that already have enzyme deficiencies in their younger years. We used to say that we had enough enzymes to keep us until we were approximately 30 years of age, and then we had to start supplementing after that. But now in this day and age, I recommend that supplementation of enzymes happens much earlier in life. So with those 2 enzymes, the general superfood enzymes and the protease is to be taken away from food. So that's taken, I always take it first thing in the morning and before I go to bed at night. I intermittent fast, so I have a very short window of eating sort of in the middle of the day. By that I mean sometime between like sort of, I did narrow it down in the summer months to 1 hour. 1 hour of eating and 23 hours of fasting. But now I've expanded it into the fall. We've had a very, very cold fall up here in the Kootenay Mountains of British Columbia. Right now we have a couple of feet of snow and it's snowing nonstop as I speak. So I really found my body wanting to expand on that. So I've opened the window of eating to approximately 3 to 4 hours. So it's either from 1 to 4 or noon to 4 is usually my window of eating. So if I have my early morning supplements that include the protease, they're far away from any food, which then gives it capacity to then go further outside of the digestive tract. So then it goes, we want it to actually go into the lymphatic system and start to break up and help dissolve what we call mucoprotein in body electronics. And that occurs when you take protease away from food. So those are the two main enzymes. There's other enzymes. I take serrapeptase. I've been taking serrapeptase for a number of years. I find it extremely helpful in keeping the inflammation in the body at a minimum. And also there's been a lot of people that have come to me in the last couple of years. It's now, it's November 30th, 2022. And so in the recent past, I've had a number of people come to me with concerns about things they're reading about in terms of things that are collecting in the blood or, blood, coagulation in blood and that sort of thing. So serrapeptase it does thin the blood a little, so it's good in that regard. Of course, if you are under a doctor's care with blood thinners, that would have to be discussed with your medical professionals. So, okay, from there, let's look at a little bit about the minerals that are necessary to get into that saturation mode of preparing for a body electronics point holding intensive. So again, Enzymes International out of the US, they have the absolute best quality minerals for practicing BE. So they have the trace mineral caps and they have the liquid minerals. They are sold by the case of 4 gallons for the minerals and then the 4 bottles of caps. And that's the most economical way to purchase them. Now, if you're around, even here in Canada, they're extremely expensive to get across. Our dollar has been very, very low. The last time I purchased, which was a couple of months ago, I think the dollar was at about 62 cents in comparison to the US dollar. I got hit with a brokerage fee, huge shipping fees, and that really puts the price up to the minerals. So, save up. I'm not saying not to purchase those minerals. I'm just saying that they are the optimal ones to have for point holding. If you are in a place where you really do not have the funds at this moment to purchase those minerals, a alternative for mainly for the maintenance level of mineral ingestion is a product called concentrates. It also comes from the Utah seabed. There's actually 2 concentrates now on the shelf. If you go into a health food store, make sure it's the one that comes from the Utah seabed and not the one that's dehydrated seawater from the Pacific Ocean. I don't know why they're the same name, but you have to be very aware of that when you're purchasing that name of concentrates. Make sure you get the one from the Utah seabed, those trace minerals, and that is sufficient in the maintenance level, it's not sufficient for the intensives. It's not sufficient for the buildup of nutrients that are necessary to really have the vitality, to have your points held, to have that process of regeneration take place on a deep cellular level, and even for you to hold points on others. We have to have a very well fortified level of nutrition to do this work. So save your money. My intent is to have a spring 2023 point holding intensive here near Nelson, British Columbia. And so if you're in a financial place where you can't afford those minerals now, get on the concentrates minerals and save up to order from Enzymes International at least 6 weeks, to take it at least 6 weeks prior to an event. Give Enzymes International, especially if you're ordering from Canada, give them at least a month to get those to you. They're often held up at the border, so you would need to order them. I would suggest at least 12 weeks prior to any intensive, so that you know that you're going to have the minerals prior, during the intensive, and following the intensive. One of the principles is what gets us into a healing crisis will get us, will help us through the healing crises. So when we are coming into a healing crisis, when we get to a point holding intensive, we want to be in a full blown healing crisis. And so we'll be taking maximum amounts of saturation level minerals during the entire event. And then after the event, we can start, we build up gradually to prepare for it. We gradually build up from maintenance to saturation. So we would take a little bit more each day for those 6 weeks until we get to that desired amount, the saturation level, before we start point holding. We do saturation through the entire point holding event. And then you can go at your own pace after the event. The longer you can go with a saturation level nutrient, you can be sure that the healing crises will be continued to be supported. You will also have to be very active internally to be able to transmute what comes up and really work through the follow-up parts of the healing crises. And then you can slowly decrease your minerals, not your enzymes, but your minerals, for approximately another 6-week period following the intensive. So I want to talk a little bit about what can happen when you get on a full body electronics nutrient protocol. And one of the things that happens, especially with the enzymes and the minerals, is that the gastrointestinal level really starts to get activated. Detoxification gets activated, and things are really being removed through the gastrointestinal tract. So we want to take lots of really, really good quality water. We want to make sure that we're well hydrated throughout this process, always, but particularly throughout this process. And I want to make people aware. I know that I've talked about this in another video, and I think it was a while ago, so you can find that somewhere in my YouTube's channels as well. But I want to touch on it briefly here, just when I'm talking again about nutrition. And that's 3 levels of detoxification that we can find when we are cleansing through the bowels. First one we call corn. And what that actually is, when we get to a certain level of nutritional vitality in our body, our immune system's working, really functioning at a very, very great level, we start to get some cleansing of what really is polyps that may be attached to the wall of the colon. And that can usually there's been hundreds of people attest to this, over the decades of body electronics. myself included, where there was a period of time, I think I'd been on the nutritional program sort of on and off for a couple of years before I started practicing BE. And that was because I had no access to point holding. But I had the minerals, I had the enzymes, I had the essential fatty acids, the probiotics, and I was taking some raw protein. So I was doing those 5, but there was kind of, I was a little bit on and off for those first couple of years. But then when I got the opportunity to actually go to point holding, I really upped it, of course, into saturation level, which I remained in from about 2001 to the end of 2007. I was pretty much in saturation level nutrients during all of those years. I was going to Doug Morrison's events in New Cumberland, Pennsylvania 3 times a year during those years. And I was always preparing and maintaining that saturation level, not only for my own personal gain, but for also be of service to others, while point holding and being present in the events. So during, I think it was maybe the first year of actually being saturated, there came a time when I went to the bathroom, and like I said, hundreds and hundreds people have attested to this, to their own experience of this. And that is kind of in a very sudden, maybe it was over a period of like a couple of days, but it was very sudden, where there was kind of like a full cleanse of what we call corn. So when we looked in the toilets, all of us who have experienced this, we would see many things that look like white corn. They were approximately that size, sometimes a little bit bigger. Mine were, about the size of corn. Some people have said they're much larger than that. So basically they're just a white, they're a white polyp is what they are. So that's the body getting to a place where it can really purge those things out of the gastrointestinal tract. So this is something that that has happened and continues to happen as people come into saturation, nutrient saturation. The second level of that totally depends. I've never experienced this, but I've heard many, many people who have. And that is what we call fuzzies. So that would be kind of like the second, it's like a second phase. That would be of these polyps in their progression, in their growth within your gastrointestinal tract. So they're called fuzzies because they kind of look like a excuse me. They look like a pussy willow. That's what people have said many, many times to me, is that they are like that white corn looking in the core, but then they have these sort of tentacles that come out from it, and they look like a pussy willow. So John Ray, the founder of Body Electronics, called them fuzzies way back when. And then there's a third process, and that is more like it would be like a cancerous process that has been happening in the gastrointestinal tract. And I have not seen this, and none of the people that I have taught over the years, 20 years, have told me that this has happened with them. But it has been known to happen over the decades with Body Electronics. People have reported this, and they have been called gills. And that is where it's kind of like a liver. They're described as a piece of liver. Looks like that's what it looks like. Would look like a piece of liver, and sometimes it even comes out with a little bit of blood, as they would have been attached to the wall of the intestine. So they heal very rapidly after that. Once that has been purged by the body itself, then then great healing takes place and regeneration, particularly if you are practicing point holding and the principles within the work of body electronics in your daily life. Of course, in the maintenance level of nutrition, we're still practicing the principles of body electronics daily. We're still looking within, we're looking at word patterns that surface, whether it's silently within our own awareness, or some words that actually are coming out that we become aware of. And we're working with that. We're working with, that's the vibrational level and the creative aspects. We're looking for the memory that goes with the words, and we're looking for the emotion. Often people have the emotion as the first part of the awareness that comes when the healing crisis begins. We start to become much more aware of emotion, and that is because the level of unconsciousness is starting to open and be welcomed into our awareness, so that we can transmute and release anything that we have suppressed, anything that we have resisted, and that's the basic process of body electronics, to release anything less than pure unconditional love within our own consciousness. And of course, that's quite a journey. So that is just a little sort of an intro video on the nutritional level. It's much more complex than that, but I just wanted to just touch upon it to give people some encouragement. Yeah, I welcome anybody to come on to the Body Electronics Evolution of Consciousness group page on Facebook that I'm quite active in, posting quite regularly. And there's several people right now beginning to prepare for the spring intensive. So you can direct your questions there, so that the community of, it's a small community, but the community of body electronics there can engage. Or you can contact me directly through my email. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay, thank you very much.